The Roman persecution of Christians, facing death for their faith. Imagine a world where whispering your beliefs could land you in a gladiatorial arena. That was the chilling reality for early Christians living under the thumb of the Roman Empire. For centuries, they were hunted down, tortured with unimaginable cruelty, and executed in ways that would turn your stomach. Hello, my fellow God-fearers, history buffs, and truth-seekers. Welcome back to AI Apostle, where we crack open the past and explore the most incredible stories ever unearthed. Today, we're plunging into a period dripping with drama, defiance, and unwavering faith, the Roman persecution of Christians. Here's the twist. The more the Romans squeezed, the more Christianity seemed to ooze out. Their faith grew stronger, their numbers swelled, and their message of love and redemption ultimately changed the course of history. Buckle up, because we're about to dissect this fascinating and sometimes brutal chapter. We'll be answering the tough questions. What fueled this relentless Roman persecution? Was it fear, a clash of ideologies, or maybe just plain old intolerance? And how did these early Christians, armed with nothing but their unwavering belief, manage to weather this storm of hate and emerge stronger on the other side? The origins of persecution. Christianity began as a small Jewish sect in the 1st century CE, but it quickly spread beyond Judea. As the new faith reached Rome, it clashed with the deeply entrenched traditions and religious practices of the empire. Early Christians refused to worship Roman gods or the emperor, which was seen not just as religious defiance, but as a political threat. This nonconformity marked them as subversive and dangerous. Nero's infamous blame. The first major persecution of Christians began under Emperor Nero. In 64 CE, a great fire ravaged Rome, destroying much of the city. Rumors swirled that Nero himself had started the fire to clear space for his new palace. To deflect blame, Nero accused the Christians, who were already unpopular and misunderstood, of arson. This led to horrific punishments. Christians were torn apart by dogs, crucified, or burned alive to illuminate Nero's gardens at night. This brutal treatment was meant to serve as both punishment and a grim spectacle for the public. State-sponsored persecution, a legal framework. Persecution varied in intensity over the centuries, often influenced by local governors and the whims of different emperors. It wasn't until the 3rd century that persecution became more systematic and state-sponsored. Emperor Decius in 250 CE issued an edict requiring all Roman citizens to perform a sacrifice to the Roman gods and the well-being of the emperor. Christians who refused were imprisoned or executed. This edict was one of the first attempts to force Christians to abandon their faith en masse. Martyrdom and its impact. The martyrs, those who suffered and died for their faith, became powerful symbols of the strength and resilience of the Christian community. Stories of martyrs like Saint Stephen, the first Christian martyr, and Saints Perpetua and Felicity, who were executed in Carthage in 203 CE, inspired many. These accounts, circulated widely among Christian communities, reinforced the idea that steadfast faith would be rewarded in the afterlife. Martyrdom was not just a personal sacrifice, but a profound act of witness that often attracted more converts to the faith. Diocletian's Great Persecution. The most severe and systematic persecution occurred under Emperor Diocletian in the late 3rd and early 4th centuries. Known as the Great Persecution, Diocletian's edicts aimed to eradicate Christianity entirely. Churches were destroyed, sacred texts were burned, and Christians were barred from public office and military service. Those who refused to renounce their faith faced torture and death. Despite the ferocity of this persecution, it ultimately failed to destroy Christianity. Christian responses to persecution. Despite the relentless oppression, Christians found ways to maintain their faith and community. They met in secret, often in catacombs, and developed symbols like the fish, ichthyes, to identify themselves covertly. Apologists such as Tertullian and Justin Martyr wrote defenses of Christianity, arguing for its moral and philosophical superiority over pagan religions. Their writings sought to explain Christian beliefs to both pagans and fellow Christians, fostering a sense of unity and purpose. The turning point, Constantine and the Edict of Milan. The relentless persecution ended with a dramatic shift in imperial policy. In 313 CE, Emperor Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, which granted religious tolerance throughout the empire and specifically legalized Christianity. Constantine's conversion to Christianity and his subsequent support for the church marked the beginning of a new era. Christianity went from being a persecuted sect to becoming the dominant religion of the Roman Empire. Nero's infamous blame. Under Emperor Nero, the first major persecution of Christians erupted in a gruesome spectacle that would leave a lasting mark on history. It all began in 64 CE, when a devastating fire broke out in Rome, consuming vast sections of the city. The fire blazed for 6 days, leaving much of Rome in ruins and its citizens in despair. In the aftermath, whispers and suspicions spread that Emperor Nero himself might have been behind the disaster, possibly to clear land for his grandiose architectural projects, including his opulent Golden House, or Domus Aurea. Seeking a scapegoat to divert the mounting accusations and public outrage, Nero turned his sights on the Christians, a small but growing religious group that many Romans viewed with suspicion and disdain. At this time, Christianity was still in its infancy, and its followers were often misunderstood and marginalized by the broader Roman society. Christians' refusal to worship the Roman gods and the emperor was seen not only as defiance of religious customs but also as a challenge to the established social order. Nero exploited these existing prejudices to his advantage, framing Christians as the culprits behind the inferno that had devastated the heart of Rome. This accusation ignited a brutal campaign of persecution. Nero's punishments for the accused Christians were not only severe but also extraordinarily cruel. The historian Tacitus records that Christians were subjected to public execution in the most horrifying ways imaginable. Some were sewn into the skins of wild animals and then torn apart by dogs in the Colosseum. Others were crucified along Rome's roads, left to die slowly in excruciating pain. Perhaps the most grotesque punishment was Nero's use of Christians as human torches. He had them covered in pitch, tied to stakes, and set alight to serve as nighttime illumination for his garden parties. These acts of barbarity were intended to serve a dual purpose: to punish the Christians and to provide a grim form of entertainment for the Roman populace. This episode of savage persecution set a dark precedent for the treatment of Christians within the Roman Empire. It demonstrated how political expediency and public scapegoating could lead to extreme acts of cruelty against a minority group. The suffering endured by these early Christians not only exemplified their steadfast faith, but also began to shape the narrative of martyrdom that would become central to Christian identity and tradition. Through their trials and ultimate sacrifices, the early Christians under Nero's reign showcased an unyielding commitment to their beliefs, laying the foundation for the resilience and eventual spread of Christianity throughout the empire. Unveiling the Colosseum's shadow, a deep dive into the Roman persecution of Christians. That, my friends, is just the tip of the spear when it comes to the Roman persecution of Christians. We've seen how faith can flourish in the face of oppression, but the why behind this brutal campaign remains shrouded in mystery. Was it fear? A clash of ideologies? Or something even more complex? In our next video, the Crusades, religious wars or geopolitical conflicts, we'll be turning the history page and venturing into another period often misunderstood. The Crusades were a series of wars fought for centuries, but were they truly holy wars fueled by religious fervor, or were there deeper geopolitical motives at play? We'll be dissecting the complex tapestry of this era, separating truth from myth and uncovering the real reasons behind these clashes between civilizations. So, if you're hungry for more historical intrigue, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell like a medieval town crier. You won't want to miss our exploration of the Crusades, a saga where religion and politics intertwined on a global stage. See you next time.